So once you've created a level and it works, and make sure that you've tested it, you want to know that it works before you do the next step. We're going to quickly create new levels. And there are a couple ways to do that. One is to duplicate levels, and the other is to create global variables or global objects. But for this one, we're going to create duplicate scenes so that we can modify each of the objects within each scene to make each level slightly different. So let's go ahead and go to our project manager, and I'm going to go to the snowman next to level 1 here, and I'm going to find duplicate. So I'm going to duplicate that, and immediately let me rename that to level 2 so I don't get confused between the two levels. If I click on that, you'll notice that it opens up two tabs, level 2 and level 2 events. And so we have a duplicate scene. It should behave exactly the same way as the first scene. But there are a couple of changes we need to make to the second scene. For instance, you don't want the score to reset at the beginning of the first scene. So we're going to go into events, and we're going to take out this change global variable, set it to 0. We're going to remove that because we don't want to reset the score in the second level. So let's go ahead and delete that. And we also want it, when we get to a certain score in level 1, we want to progress to level 2. So we're going to go over to level 1 events, and every time we change the score, which would be when this happens, then we're going to check to see if a condition is true. So I'm actually going to add a new event, but I'm going to make it a sub event of this event right here because the score only changes when I left click. So I'm going to drag this in, which means now it will only happen if if I'm clicking on an object, which means then I could be changing the score. And I'm going to check to see if the score is over a certain value. So if I add a condition, my score is a global variable, so I'm going to go to other conditions here. I'm going to find variables, global variables, and then I'm going to look at the value of a global variable. And I'm going to look at this and I'm going to see if it is greater than or equal to. And the reason I'm going to do that is in case you make a logic error in your scoring, you want to make sure that, let's say you're adding 50s but you checked at 999, it's never going to hit that exactly. And so we want to check if it's greater than or equal to 1,000. But in this case, I'm only going to check for 50 because I don't want to wait forever for it to happen. So I'm going to say OK. And at this point, then I need to change scenes. So I'm going to add an action, and I'm going to change scenes, which is other actions. So I'm going to go find scene, and I'm going to change the scene, and I'll choose whichever scene I want to use. And notice it was important to name your scenes in a way that makes sense so that you know which one to choose. And we're going to stop the other pause scenes. So I'm going to say OK. And the thing is, it should actually function, but I won't know that it functions because the two levels don't look different. So let me go in, and since I duplicated the entire scene, these are actually different objects now. They're duplicate objects, which means I could go and I could change the sprite for this so I can tell the walls are different. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to choose a different block for my walls for this scene. So let's say the green one this time. And that way I know very clearly, okay, yes, my level has changed. Otherwise, let's just keep it the same for the moment and see what happens. So if I play the game now, oh, and don't forget, it's a good idea to save your project. So let me save this. And I'm going to save it. Let me see if I found the right spot. Nope, wrong spot. There we go. So I'm going to save it with a name that I'll recognize. So I'm going to save it in the Catch the Clown folder, and we'll call this uh, switch levels or something like that. Okay. So always important to be saving your game as you go along, otherwise you could lose some work. And it's a good idea as you make progress in your project that you save it incrementally. So as you make major changes, save it with different names so that if you ever decide to roll back those changes, you can easily go back to the prior version of your game because you may find out something just doesn't work. So let's go ahead and try this out now. And when I play the game, oh, I made a mistake. Remember that I wanted to see if it would switch from level to level. So that means I need to start at level 1. So we're going to play it from level 1. And now I know that if I get to a score of 50 or higher, it should switch. And sure enough, it worked. So we have that part of it done. So I've duplicated a scene and I have made it so it advances from one scene to the other. But did you notice what was happening when I was actually playing the game? So let's play it one more time. And 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Uh-oh, we've got a bug. Notice that it says score equals 0. However, if I click this one more time, bink, notice it jumped to 60. And that's a bug. So we need to go fix that. And that bug exists because even though I removed the code to set the score to 0, I didn't add code to change the label. And so what I need to do is I'm just going to copy this code right here and paste it up here. That way it will set at the beginning of the scene, it's going to set it exactly to what I want the score to be when I switch scenes. And now, of course, I forgot to start the correct level. So let's go ahead and one more time. And you can see why I set the score to 50 to switch levels, because then I can get to it pretty quickly. And notice this time it switched and the score is working. And then I could do a similar process for level 2 and level 3 and level 4, or however many levels you wanted to do.